Hey guys, give me a sec here to get started and we'll have a conversation. Okay, so let's have a conversation. Let's talk. I made a lot of notes this time, and so hopefully I really organized my notes this time. So hopefully with the extra organization of the notes that I have here, we're able to get through this much quicker than last time. I know a lot of times I start with saying I'm really not going to be here very long, and it ends up being a lot longer than I had anticipated. So I'm going to do my best to try to avoid that this time. And I really organized my notes before the stream. So hopefully I can get through this as quick as possible, because I really organized my thoughts on this beforehand versus, just sort of kind of getting a rough outline and then, coming on here and going through that with you instead of going through the notes. So yes, that also means that if there's chat or whatever, there's a little bit more time for that. But let's just go ahead and get started here. So we have a lot of whistleblowers coming out in to our government. In general, we have a lot of whistleblowers in the military, and in general, coming out to people that have worked maybe in the military or intelligence or something like that, coming out to talk about how there has been a massive government cover-up on UFOs for a very, very, very long time. We're talking like almost 100 years, maybe even longer. Some of this stuff I actually was able to find actually goes back to the 1800s. So some of that actually I think some people are sort of unaware of. But we're not necessarily going to go back that far because I don't really know too much about that. Hello. So let's diverge a little bit. We're going to start this with an interesting point, okay? And then I'm going to talk later about this point, okay? So I'm going to mention something that's going to seem really off topic, but I'm going to tell you and explain to you why it's not. And then by the time I mention this again, maybe you'll have understood, why I mentioned this. So let's start with let's start with this, okay? So basically, we've talked about psychological warfare, and we've talked about how a lot of different countries around the world, they exist in a society of totalitarianism where their society is lied to. They aren't brought up to think that men and women are side by side, they're equal, they're or even racially brought up incorrectly, and so we know this from history, okay? But we also know this, from the societies that exist all around the world today, and things like that. We know, China, North Korea, and stuff like that use psychological warfare. And so basically what you have to realize is that Obama was president already for a good amount of time, and he was very successful. And it had already probably put a huge damper on any type of psychological impact that they were trying to have on anybody you know, in any of those countries that would essentially have, primarily black people instead of white or Asian or something like that, where they see a black man as president of the United States, and for a long time, and successful. And so now it's like they're having a hard time combating this. Okay? So this is what I wanted to start with this, where essentially a lot of the psychological warfare that happens to us and to a lot of the countries maybe around the world is happening because there's somebody in power or something really big right in front of your eyes that to you and I, we don't notice it. But to this country, to this totalitarian society where they control everything they do and think, you have to realize that that thing is right there, front and center for them to see. Obama, just going to all these countries, and he's a black man. And he's very well liked. And that's it. And that's what you're going to see. And that's what they're going to see. And they're going to have a hard time selling the fact that, whatever they're saying about, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying. Whatever they're doing to try to control people in the societies where they're lying to them about the countries where it's predominantly black or something like that, or you get the point. So we're gonna stop there. Okay, I just wanted to lead with that. Okay, and we're gonna come back to this. Okay, let's talk about some of the whistleblowers that are coming out. Now let me see if I can share with you. I want to share with you guys I want to share with you guys some of the links of these things, because it's really important for you guys to see where it's coming from. See that firsthand what I'm talking about here, so I'm going to go ahead and okay. Okay, so let me go ahead and get rolling on this, and then I'll show you guys a link here. So we have all these whistleblowers coming out, not like in Congress but the whole point is that they're coming out the right way. They're trying really hard to stay true to anything that's still classified, anything that's going on right now that they don't really want to come out, that would be bad to the enemies and stuff like that. So that you have to consider that. So they're trying to do it as conservatively as possible. But the point is that this has been a protected secret for a long time, and everybody's talking about drones, all this stuff's flying around. Everybody's seeing it. It's not a secret anymore. It's not. So let's talk about the UFO case. Let's talk about the. Hold on, where is it here? Let me find my notes here. Okay, so a whistleblower named David Grusch. I hope I'm saying that right. He came forward and he did like this whole interview and everything. This guy is really, really high rank, in the military and stuff like that. Really, really high clearance for things. And basically, this guy was saying that there's a time where we didn't know. Like, basically, this all started when a UFO crash landed I think, let me look at my notes. I think it was 1933. Yes. A UFO crash landed in 1933, and this was in Magenta, Italy. And apparently, they gave the U.S., like the Vatican had this, and they gave it to us. So we've apparently known about this since the 30s, the early 30s, at least the U.S. So it seems. And so one can conclude, I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about the dates of the other stuff that happened, the stuff where the whistleblowers are coming out and they're showing this footage and stuff like that, and I started thinking, you know what? Let me add this up. So if you start thinking about it, the Manhattan Project began in 1942. Okay, as you guys know, this is the atomic bomb, the development of the atomic bomb, yada yada yada. And you know, it was controversial. I guess some people didn't really necessarily want to join. It would be interesting if, you know, they received that knowledge and in light of that knowledge joined. So let me follow this logic a little bit and connect some dots for you. And today we know that some countries around the world, I'm not saying who, we know that people's nukes and ICBMs in general, intercontinental ballistic missiles, we know for sure that some sort of spacecraft that is unidentified was able to fly over them, render them useless, and then leave, avoiding any type of real conflict. And again, many, all highly developed nations. And it looked like a sad joke. And so the whole point is that you rationalize, as these people are coming out and they're describing some of these craft as defying the laws of physics, and we're going to get into that. But just how fast they are, how they don't even have, you know, they defy gravity, it seems, where they don't even have wind resistance or anything like that. This is the type of stuff we're talking about. So anyway, the whole point is that they're dismantling that because this was successful. So the Manhattan Project completed, and again, if you remember, it completed in, hold on. Not 47, 45, right? Hold on, where is it? Yeah, in 45, the Manhattan Project completed in 45, and if you kind of research it a bit like we did, you find out that it completed with the successful launch of an atomic bomb. Okay? An atomic bomb. And then conveniently, we know that atomic bombs are being tested where? And then the crash landing, the crash landing in 1947 in New Mexico. So basically, I just started kind of trying to add things up a little bit and follow these dates a little bit. And it's like, oh jeez. Yeah. Yup. they so basically you rationalize they actually developed nukes for this and not to protect against the enemy. It was for this. And he's freaking insane. So basically, I rationalized 1947 UFO case, the Trinity UFO case, 1947. It's possible that's because this crash landing came from the nuclear blast itself. This may be why. And then I have these notes here. We haven't seen an invasion yet because they are scared of our nukes. And that is possible. You know, like the whole point is like, well, why aren't they invading then? Well, because they're trying to disable those. Because they know that flat out, we took out one of their craft finally when some of these whistleblowers are coming forward. And we just saw video evidence a couple weeks ago in Congress of them releasing this very sophisticated missile that they know pretty much is going to annihilate anything in the air. And this thing shreds this missile like paper and keeps going. And that's what these folks are talking about now in Congress, basically, like, holy. Okay. So the whole point is that this is why they're trying to disable these things. And hold on, what's my other? This is a long note. Yeah, I already went over this, but basically, yeah, it was the bait, set, and trap for the alien spacecraft. They knew where it was primarily happening. They had the idea of the fact that they had seen sightings here, so they start, hey, we could test there. There's nothing there anyway. So basically, they bait it, set the nuke, boom, trap. And inconveniently, that's the one they keep under wraps. I think that's the one that we don't know much about. Right. And then conveniently in August 15th, 47, the Manhattan Project is officially disbanded. To the successful. Okay. So. Okay, so this is I do way better without notes. I get lost. So yeah, now let's talk about some of these whistleblowers are coming forward. So the one gentleman who's an intelligence officer, I think he's highly senior intelligence, I think. Senior intelligence, I think. He was I think military police, I believe. And so here, let me give you, first of all, this is the interview. That's the link right there. That's the link for the interview with David Grusch. I hope I'm saying his last name right. That's the interview with him where he talks about a lot of the stuff. And here, let me get the full hearing for you guys. So this is like people from both sides of the aisle, you know, agreeing that people need to hear about this. Now, that full congressional hearing, again, there was a gentleman that he was military police at one time, and I believe that was what he did, because he was patrolling. One of his jobs was to patrol, and basically he was discussing how, you know, his first encounter with this sort of phenomenon, and basically he was telling a story, a pretty crazy story, you know, about some stuff that he experienced with his own eyes. And, you know, basically witnessing a spacecraft. Now, again, go watch it and listen to what he said. But the thing that drew my interest is this molten lava sort of flow that he talked about on top of this craft. That's interesting. I think that we have to rationalize that since they're moving at speeds we can't comprehend, and they defy gravity physics that we know, you know, like essentially can just instantly go from here to here. Like, it's not like they accelerated or decreased speed. They just suddenly went from here to here. Like that's kind of what we're talking about, sort of stuff. Where it's just incredible speeds that don't make any sense. Again, defy like wind resistance, like gravity, like the ship would break apart basically in our known laws of physics, and consistently these things are just defying that. So what you rationalize is essentially a scientist is going to probably look at that from a standpoint of this spacecraft probably, you know, you throw some theories out there, and what I'm going to throw out there is the spacecraft could possibly exist in some sort of you know, pocket type of dimension where, you know, like, again, the concept of another dimension of like, let's say they exist in the fourth dimension, which is time. So maybe they live forever. Yeah, again, they just keep living. They have no concept of aging. But because of that, now they can't quite interact with the third dimension in the same ways that we can. So it's not like they can necessarily just immediately come here and attack us. They come here in these pocket dimensions where they've created this really substantial technology to, you know, craft these aircraft that can exist in this environment. And yes, the technology is way beyond us, but it's still bound to our rules. So thus being afraid of nukes and things like that, where they can't just cut it apart. It's a nuke. So, yeah, a nuke is detonated. So it's a little bit different. And again, a nuclear reaction, it's just totally different. Totally different. Like, even that was like way beyond our scientific understanding of the laws of physics and stuff like that at the time. Even like that was just brilliant. You know, it really was. It was incredible, but scary. And so, you know, that's kind of the point, is we see all of that happening where they're disabling those and stuff like that. So with that being said, and with us knowing that this you know, defies everything that we know as, like, you know, kind of what you're taught in science, and it doesn't. What you have to realize is that I don't agree necessarily with that, and it doesn't necessarily do that. It just... there's still stuff that we have to understand. It doesn't somehow discredit certain things about our understanding. It's just that we may not necessarily, there's still plenty of stuff that we have yet to find out and understand. So just because there's stuff that we have to understand doesn't mean it discredits everything that we understand, as religion and science and stuff like that necessarily. Okay, so don't go jumping to conclusions on that. And some of these gentlemen were saying that, and so that's why I say that. That's why I repeated that. But I don't necessarily agree that does that. You have to get there first. So again, psychological warfare. Psychological warfare. So we talked in the beginning, I had mentioned something in the beginning. The thing that I mentioned in the beginning that seemed unrelated. Now we're going to talk about that. So, again, we discussed the thing about, Obama and stuff like that being successful, and the concept that in other countries, totalitarian societies and stuff like that, where they use psychological warfare, or, not even totalitarian, just in general, just societies where they use, concepts like that to control, thinking and free thought in general. So, oh man, and now this is coming out. Now extraterrestrial. Oh boy, now you're introducing that. And in addition to that, we had a black woman run for president and stuff like that, and still very well liked and very, admirable and respectable. So, you have to realize that to these other societies that the internet exists and stuff like they might be living in the past a bit, and their technology's behind and they're controlled, but that's the reality. Is these days the internet is everywhere, and they find out, they just find out, and so that's what's kind of happening. And so you have to rationalize that could it possibly be a very extravagant and sophisticated psyop? I don't believe so. Obviously, we have the evidence of the video of them shooting that missile and it getting shredded. We've seen that. We have David Grusch coming forward and telling us firsthand about the stuff that he has witnessed, that he can speak about. And so, and he actually is sort of kind of stating that he doesn't necessarily feel extraterrestrial, because that implies off planet, a different world. So don't think necessarily alien, but he admits again that different species maybe, for sure. And that's certainly what we're talking about, obviously, where even Russia and China and stuff, it's happening to them too. Where that's where he's saying, where as much as you want to think it's a psyop, and I want to think that too, that seems easier to deal with. In reality, no. Apparently Russia had the same thing happen to them, where they actually lost pilots and stuff like that due to, UAPs. Now, you have to realize they're running psychological warfare now to lie to their people so that, because the pilots they lost, I'm sure they probably lied about why they lost them. They probably didn't tell the families the truth, or whoever. Probably not. So that's what you need to realize about over there versus over here. It's extremely important to us, as in this country, to know those things. That's your resolve, for sure, in this country. And in other countries, it is too, but they're being lied to about that stuff. And so that's the point, is that's why they lied to him, because they know that would make it or break it for literally anybody. You cannot lie about, the way soldiers and military is taken down. You just can't. People that'll tick off anybody. Like, fundamentally, that is the one thing. But I think anybody, they want to just know what happened. All right, now I wrote a very long thing on this as to why I feel like this could have something to do with what I was talking about with the whole thing with Obama. And let me just organize this. I did a search, and I wanted to know, if there were, like, substantially, like, a lot more men than women in the world, where, like, that was why. Like, where it was just, like, a majority thing. No. There's ever so slightly more men, but no, very slightly. It's even. For every 100 women, you have 102 men. That's the ratio. That's nothing. As the billions of people, at the end of the day, that accounts for maybe a tens of millions of people, like 30 or 40 million or something like that. It's really not that much. Out of 7 billion, right, on the planet, it's not that much in comparison. And so, like, it's even, is what I'm saying. So, like, again, that doesn't seem to have any effect on that. So the question is why? Why psychological warfare? It's not actually how people feel. It's really not. No, I think most people are generally accepting of that. Otherwise, you wouldn't. Like, that's the point. Like, there's plenty of women and black people in general, not just women, but black people in general, doing jobs and positions of power and stuff like that, and not even just in this country now. And we know this. So the more it happens and the more it's in the public view, the more psychological warfare they have to do. And the point is, Trump, this current administration, yeah, it looks good for that. Because that's the point. That's, it really is a lot of times that basic. Like, they're just picking something to get you to hate, people. So, basically, all right, with that in mind, let me read I wanted to sort of say that first, and so let me read this now. Okay, so basically, these are sort of my notes on why I think there might be some sort of psychological op possibly being run, or just the theory thrown out there. It's not necessarily happening, but this is going to explain why a president versus another president might make a different decision to tell the American people about UAPs and UFOs. Because that's the difference. Is lately we've had presidents, even in modern Obama and Biden. Let's not. And while I agree with their policies and the way they ran things, I may not necessarily agree on the transparency of this particular thing. However, I'm going to explain to you sort of both sides. I'm going to explain to you why they might. Just like a situation. It's just a, this could be a situation that could be why. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just saying this could be one of the millions of scenarios you could throw out there, that you could think of that could be why this would happen. Okay, so, part of why some presidents feel differently is because they are aware of things that the CIA is aware of that maybe someone like David Grusch isn't. The whistleblower I had mentioned previously that obviously for transparency and stuff like that. And so the president is privy to stuff the CIA knows that even this guy that has top clearance and stuff might not be. And that's true. Because the CIA is not, that's different. And that's intelligence. And so, you just have to consider that. So, for example, if the current president was aware of a threat to the U.S. or people in their own administration because of knowledge of what the intelligence of what the CIA tells the president would happen. So maybe that's was why a previous president didn't want to get out, is if there's substantial evidence that someone would be harmed or that it would cause more confusion among people that don't know all the facts and maybe never will. And I think it's that. I think it's that there's this common thing where, people destroy stuff and they freak out. And a lot of people don't know why it happens. Because they're so far from ever doing something like that, they could possibly understand why people do that. So they just really don't know. And it truthfully, a lot of times it's psychological warfare. And I think some of the presidents do know that. And they understand that. And they understand that it's possible that if you come out with information like this, those psyops are going to get so aggressive, and they're already having a hard time dealing with it. So, I realized my notes, reading those just straight off like that didn't make any sense. So that's why I'm paraphrasing here and trying to sum up what I said here. It's notes for me, not for you. So, so that's what I'm sort of kind of getting at is that president might understand and know that that's going to happen, while the other president, who thinks a little bit differently, and who might be privy to that CIA information, but maybe doesn't care, or doesn't listen to it, or doesn't pay any attention to it, or whatever, just says, no, it's got to be known, or whatever, just makes a quick decision for everything. Yeah. So I I feel like a lot of times with the current administration, yes, it seems like transparency is a good idea, but always remember that like there's a real good reason why a president wouldn't want to take credit for being the president that released information about UFOs. Because trust me, you're going to be famous. Like, you're the president that released this and got to talk about this, and yeah, for sure. So why wouldn't they want to jump all over that? Well, because they're doing their job to be responsible about that information. So I'm always going to question when the president wants to jump all over being transparent. And you should too. So I do not necessarily agree this time. But with that being said, that's a very good reason why Obama and Biden did not want to do this and release the information. I'm just saying. Not saying I agree with it, because we may not agree on everything. But I'm just stating for the record that that's a very good reason. And if I was part of their administration, I would do everything I could at that time to also abide by that. But I actually, this is one thing I agree with, finally, is the transparency on this. But again, do it right. You have to combat this. You have to combat the psyops that are going to happen, the drone attacks that inevitably happened. Like that's what's going on. All these drones are manifesting like they're literally just getting so aggressive about their drone tech because they're trying so hard to combat this. Like it's that simple. And so, like, I just kind of wanted to get on here and let you guys know, like, that's partially why you're seeing that. Because it's a ramp up to try to deal with what they know has been ramping up, or they've been seeing their nukes going offline randomly. And they know who it is. Because the U.S. will just be like, it's not us. So, yeah, like the whole point is they're just releasing, they're developing drone tech, they're trying to do as much testing and experimenting as they can. Especially if they know that some of those craft were in the areas that you see those drones. So, anyway. You see a lot of drone sightings, and a lot of those drones typically are military-based and stuff like that. And we know there's a lot of military strikes going on. Yes, that is true, but it's also the fact that there's all these UAPs flying around and actually attacking too. So you have to realize that. You have to realize that it has a lot to do with that. I think I know what they're doing. I don't know how I know. But I think I know. Let me look something up here. I get the right term. Yeah. Well, so I think they're using fusion. A thing that we've really strived to try to accomplish. The thing that would be the answer to like everything, to kind of gravity and stuff like that. I think it's fusion. I think it's that simple. And I think that's why nukes work. because it's fusion. So, yeah, a nuke. But a really freaking big one. I think it's fusion. I think that fusion tech, so there's we talked about gravity tech before. We talked about harnessing gravity tech and the concepts of how this would be an answer to almost anything. I'm trying to think of the one. I always sort of kind of do this, don't I? There's this term for the type of gravity tech that I'm thinking of. For some reason I can't think of it. It's used commonly actually in like video games and lore and stuff too. But it's a legitimate. You would legitimately use that term. I know how I can find this out. Yep. So I'm talking about temporal technology. It's called temporal technology. And, the concept is about using... The concept is about using... harnessing gravity. Not necessarily, you don't need, I wish I could explain it. I really wish that I had a physics degree, because there's a lot of things I understand that if I had the education, I would probably develop them like it was that. It's really annoying. The concept that you don't need a fusion reaction to use fusion technology, to use that type of... you just need gravity. So in order to have gravity, all you need is an environment, right? So that's what they're doing. They have figured out how to move an environment. That's it. Now, because they're fourth dimensional beings, this environment exists parallel to ours, so that the idea and the concept is that it mimics our own. But it's not perfect. That's, I think, what you're seeing with the lava, and I think it was damaged. I don't think generally you're going to see that. I think maybe he saw a damaged ship or something like that, and it was like spewing stuff, so it left. Maybe. But I just, again, it's the concept that, so again, gravity is a force that we don't technically understand. We just know it exists. And basically, if you can understand that, you can have this force by constantly dropping something. Think about it as like something constantly falling. Now, put that thing in the endless space of space, I guess. A space that isn't space, really, where it's like a looped thing. Does that make sense? Where it's just starting back where it ended. It goes through a portal and comes out the other side, sort of like a concept of like portal. You have a portal here and then a portal here, and so it goes through this one and just comes out this one. So the concept of gravity then using that technology would be to do this, to have the portal like this, where one portal's up here, one portal's down here, and this is how the technology works. The atoms that you would need to develop the reaction, essentially, the energy, you would simply drop through the top portal into the bottom. So it just does this endlessly. And all it ever does is endlessly speed up. Because it's just falling, right? So if it's endlessly falling and you're developing energy off that, that's endless energy. The worry, obviously, is if you needed to stop it or it suddenly stopped, what would happen? So always have some sort of fail-safe where if it stops, it's dispersed instead of hitting something. Have a disbursement sort of technology that you would develop around that, side by side. But that's the concept, is essentially temporal technology where you're just using what you already know and trying to get, just at least trying, you know? And yeah, we know that's how gravity works. You drop something, it keeps speeding up at, what is it? I don't even remember anymore. 1.2 meters per second or something like that. I don't even remember. But that's the point. It accelerates, is what I'm saying. So that's why, you know, you would need not necessarily a vacuum, but, you know, an environment that acts like a miniature planet. But it's not really a planet, you know. You get what I'm saying. So you'd have to figure out how to reverse engineer an orb, I guess. So, like, the concept of a black hole, I guess. That's the reverse of an orb. The reverse of an orb is a black hole. So use the concept of a black hole. So that way when it goes through, it loops around and comes up the side. And I guess like a vacuum cleaner, sort of. Anyway, I want to give you this too. Do. Intelligence.gov. Hold on a sec. Intelligence.gov. Hold on. I'm gonna give it to you guys here. There it is. Okay. Here is... Why is that? That's weird. Okay, there we go. I want that one. Alright, I'm gonna give you guys this one. Hopefully... Yes! It works. Sometimes there's not enough space for the... So that is the download link for the 2021 preliminary assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena. So you can go download that and again see right for your very eyes that you'll have right in front of you a document right from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence on June 25th, 2021, and you can just go right through this and look at all this stuff about UAPs and all this crap. And clearly see that it's very, very, very integrated, and it's been going for a while, and there's no question. There's no question. So I figured I would give you guys that too. It's not gonna sit here and talk about UAPs or anything like that. That's an unclassified document. So like it's mainly gonna talk about I think accountability and stuff. Probably numbers of incidents. Yeah, here we go. Sightings, like reports and stuff. So, like, yeah, it's going to talk about that stuff, and again, like, that's coming right from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Okay, so you can look at that and download that. I think we got it pretty much cleared. I'm looking to see if I covered everything I wanted to cover. Oh, yes. Oh, actually, I did look this up. So let me update you guys, okay? Let me update you guys on what I found out. So David Grusch, apparently, and other people too. I know I keep mentioning him. I don't mean to do that, but I just he gave a lot of info. So it's the sort of thing where like I want to credit him, with that. But I want to reiterate that I think that a lot of these guys think that the first incident was like that one, like the 30s, and it's just not the case. And I actually found this even right on Google. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read the answer, and I'm gonna read what it says too, because it really does list this. Now, here's what's really weird. It doesn't know about the 1933 thing that David Grusch was talking about. So I think that's interesting too. So let's compare. I said, where and when was the first UFO crash? And it said, there isn't a universally agreed upon first UFO crash, but the earliest documented alleged incident was the Aurora, Texas UFO incident in April 1897. (1897). Can you imagine in 1897 seeing an aircraft? Even just seeing an aircraft. Yeah, these guys barely have revolvers. That's the extent of their technology. They got horses and wagons and revolvers and single fire rifles and stuff. And they see an aircraft. There was a UFO incident in April of 1897 in Aurora, Texas. So apparently this mysterious airship reportedly crashed, and a pilot was buried in a local cemetery. However, the well-known Roswell incident in July 1947 is often cited as a major sighting point for modern UFO beliefs, and the Trinity, the thing we talked about too in 1945. So we did talk about those, which was the near the first atomic bomb. So yeah. Near it. Yep. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was near it. it's like, yeah, I mean, they already clearly learned that works. Like, that's, you have to realize that's what I'm saying, that they were not being honest about. Like, they clearly downed some ships with this, and those are the ships they took in. That's what I'm saying. Like, clearly the atomic bomb was successful in stopping some ships that maybe were attacking at the time, and they did it. And so they brought them in. And then the other incident was the one they really couldn't keep quiet, because, again, it was just a crash thing. And so people found out about it versus... Plus, a nuke, I mean, even if it's of foreign nature, I can't imagine there was a whole lot left of it. It was probably pretty incinerated. I don't know. No concept for how hot that is. So I think, I do think that, I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to mention the first agreed upon, essentially I guess it says there's no first agreed upon, but again, the earliest documented. That's what I wanted to get out there. I wanted you guys to know the earliest documented case is actually Aurora, Texas, 1897. So, you're thinking it's 1933 and stuff like that when the Vatican gave us their crash? No, apparently there was one in Texas in 1897. So there's a fair bet it's been going on even before that. Again, probably in China and so, like, that's the point. You have to rationalize it's going elsewhere too, and those countries are developing tech based on their crashes too, and maybe they have some of that tech. And if they do, oh yeah, transparency needs to happen. Yeah. You can't keep it quiet. If they have the tech, yeah, it's like the Manhattan Project thing. You have to do it. You have to. And while these guys are also saying, just like at the time that the Manhattan Project was going on, they didn't know much about that. It's not like they didn't know it was going on. Just like this. Like, obviously we know what's going on, but we don't know what. So the point is, yeah, transparency. Scientists. Smart people. Not just military people looking at this so that, because even me with a science mind, and I can probably fill in some of the blanks even maybe a little better than some of the military guys that are just like soldiers or officers or whatever that didn't specialize in something like that. They don't know what they're necessarily seeing and what they're not, So you have to realize that that's the point of that, is to get so many eyes on this that there's no way. Essentially that, like just like the other technology, AI and all that, just like that's going so fast we can't calculate it. That's what you want for this. You want enough people to find out about, like, stuff like this that, essentially that, like, people can get on board and we can get ahead of it, because this affects humanity. It's not just, again, us. We're talking about how this is... even Russia would compare notes with us on this stuff. That's the point. Like, as much as they're definitely our enemy, the whole point is, no, even Russia would be like, yeah, let's compare notes, and stuff like that. There's no question. There's no question. So, that's what you have to realize. And I don't think anybody wants a total annihilation situation. At World War III, where it's total annihilation situation. Again, I think a lot of that is coming out as a precursor to people not understanding the reports of hearing that, again, the ICBMs and all these different countries are having their nukes randomly go offline from technology that nobody can explain. It doesn't even appear to be any type of hack or anything like that. Just literally technology that nobody can explain. And that's something that everybody's gonna get on board with. Like that's the sort of thing where nobody wants that. That's the sort of thing where we become friends out of having a common enemy, right? Yes. Yeah. And for humanity's sake, So, I think that's about it. I think that we pretty much got to everything, like I said, that I was gonna get to in this one. I think. Oh, something else to realize too is that I did Google search this, and I wanted to share this with you. The psychological warfare thing, where we're talking about other countries and stuff like that having an effect on causing psyops and stuff like that, out of the concept of the fact that too many of their civilians are finding out that there's a successful black man as president or something like that in the U.S. or something like that. So because they can't have that for their society, and they're like that, I Google searched how many countries in the world have a leader that's either black or a woman, and it's nothing. It's nothing. It literally says women or black individuals hold a significantly lower number of head of state or government positions than white men. Specific figures for white men are globally not precisely tracked. But data on women and black leaders highlight the disparity. Yeah, for sure, because you can calculate that. It's single digits, man. There's not that many. I don't know that it's single digits, but hold on. It's obviously not single digits, but yeah, basically what it says here is out of there are 195 recognized countries in the world, and it's basically saying out of the 195 there's only 29 countries that have women as their head. 29 out of 195. And again, it's low for black men too. So the whole point is that these countries like Russia, China, North Korea, who is the leader? You get it, right? A guy who's brought up as a guy in that society, who's fair-skinned, is brought up that way, thinking that way in that society. You get it, right? And now he's leading that society. I hope you get it. I hope you get what I'm saying. He thinks that way because he's brought up that way. And so now he just leads that way. It's not true. It's not accurate. He wasn't taught right. You get what I'm saying? Just like when Kim Jong-un is the most educated person in his country, the reason that they did that, they shipped him to Switzerland. Because they can't educate. It's not good enough. So you have to realize that they even pulled him out early because he was so smart. But they pulled him out because he started getting friends. Like they didn't want him getting too friendly and stuff like that. Like he was there for an education. He's going to be a leader of their country then, you know. So you have to realize what they do. They're not going to tolerate that. They're going to do everything they can to keep that, you know, to a minimum. So that's what I'm talking about with the psychological warfare, where they're trying to influence the leadership of the countries around them to mock, you know, essentially what they're selling. And if the U.S. can help them do this with their propaganda, it goes to the moon, you know? It really does. Quite literally, right? With Russia. So yeah, you have to realize what that's saying. You know, you get what I'm saying with the 195 recognized countries, and only 29 being leaders that are women. Yeah, huge problem. Yet in the world, we look at those numbers, as I mentioned earlier, and it's half and half. You know, for every 102 men, you have 100 women. So then why, for 195 countries, isn't it like 95? At least 95 are women, you know? Any predictions for the next 10 years? It's tough. It's tough to predict anything anymore. This country is descending into fascism, and if that happens, if there's no democracy at a certain point, if we truly forsake the Constitution and descend into fascism, it's going to change the world for the worse. So that's going to have a lot to do with the next 10 years. If that does happen, the United States will most likely be attacked and crippled pretty quickly. It'll happen from within. They've been planning this for a long time. And, you know, regardless of us having a really, really, you know, commanding military and stuff like that, a big military, it's the sort of thing where if somebody's in charge, just like with Putin with Russia, where they don't know what they're doing for X amount of time and then they just bankrupt the country. I mean, we're already doing really poorly financially. So now we're heading into fascism, when fascism already we know that bankrupts people and doesn't work. So now that we're already broke, now we're heading into fascism. Again, we're going to be broke. It's already doing that. It's going to be like North Korea, except a really, really big North Korea. North Korea financially is just awful. So if it doesn't happen, I don't know. I think that it's dangerous to say. I think that the Trump administration, quite literally, everybody is fueled by the fact that they're concerned of consequences for the things they've been doing. So I feel as though if I sit here and I say what would happen accurately, it's just fuel for them to attack and harm, because of what they've been doing. So I just, as much as I want to throw that out there and say that, I just feel like that's why you can't say that anymore, because that's again, that's fuel for them to keep trying to hide what they're doing and harming. And if everybody forgets about the Epstein thing just because Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and now, like, I don't understand that. And we talked about how nobody even knew who Charlie Kirk was. Like, nobody talked about him, nobody knew who he was, and then suddenly he's assassinated, and everybody knows who he is and wants to talk about him. So that's a psychological warfare. That's all that is. That's all that is. Nobody. He wasn't spreading too much hate. Like, nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that. And, like, it was just stupid. It was a stupid statement. I don't even think the person that did it believes that. He's just hateful because of Trump. All the stuff going on. He was aiming it at this guy. And so that's it. He had problems. And then psychological warfare, they manipulated that situation, probably ticked him off even more. And got him to just, for a few hours think incorrectly long enough to do something stupid. It's that simple. And, again, like, you didn't even know who Charlie Kirk was. The whole point is that administration jumped all over that. People were in my chat within minutes of his death being declared, saying all kinds of stuff like it's sick and stuff like that. Like, just, I was streaming when this happened, and like just immediately, and like it didn't even make any sense. And people at the memorial aren't even acting right. They're just literally talking nonsense about how hateful the other side is and stuff. They're not remembering Charlie Kirk. They're just saying about how the other side is so hateful and stuff like that. And it's like, again, why are we doing this when all you need to do is sit here and talk about Charlie Kirk? Like, why would you do that? Why would you spend the funeral or a memorial talking about how hateful people are instead of remembering the person? That doesn't make any sense. So this is what I see. I flat out see that side using the concepts of transparency as a wall to confuse the people that think, oh, it's transparent, but meanwhile, what they're going to do is to say it's transparency and just lie. Just do something different. Okay. So it's just to realize that this current administration is actually doing. So, I believe in the transparency, I do, but I feel like, again, there's something behind it. There's something weird about this, the fact that he's so gung-ho about it. And, yeah, he loves popularity. So, again, it's all about being the president that was the president when UFOs were announced and stuff like that, It's just about stuff like that. It's just like when I told you about this a bunch of times, when they signed the stimulus checks to give you money, and then Trump literally had them withhold those for X amount of time just so that he could put his name on them, to play like some sort of psychological thing on you to make you think, oh, the Trump administration gave you this money. No, it was a stimulus payment decided on by Congress, and Trump held them back for 2 weeks. It took him 2 weeks because, again, he has to sign them all. And again, he wanted to literally put, from Donald Trump or from the Trump administration or something like that, right on the check. And I saw it. That was the point. Yeah, I saw it. It was right on there when I got it. And yeah, they came out and said, well, we just want to make sure that it's from us. And they literally withheld them for 2 weeks. I remember that. And people needed this. This was like the COVID thing where they were getting the stimulus payments out. And they withheld him for like 2 weeks just so he could do that. So the whole point is that you'll remember that. All you'll remember is that you saw a check one time in the mail, and you got this, and it's the Trump did this. That's all you're gonna remember, and that's the point. That's why the propaganda is quick, dismissive things, because that's what you remember. It's a sales pitch. The whole thing's a sales pitch. It's always a sales pitch with him. Always a sales pitch. So that's my concern with the current transparency situation, where as much as I like to think about it as being transparent, I think he's being irresponsible and just doing it because he wants to be the president that is there when this information comes out. But again, I actually think I may agree with the transparency, though if I were in charge, I would know the facts and all the information, and I would be able to determine that, and we don't. And not a single one of those military people that's whistleblowing this does either. Not one, not a single one. They know some. They know what they've seen. They don't know all of it. They just really want to know. So I get it. And I get that the guy that's in charge of the secret organization that has like a really nice suit and really expensive looking stuff on that's testifying is completely bold-faced lying and saying that they don't have any information credible on that stuff. And I get that. I get that. So I understand. And that is annoying. And I want the transparency too. But again, I don't have all those facts and I can't see them. So until I would, I can't say 100% that I necessarily agree with it either. But I would probably, most likely, be for it. Just, there's probably some stuff we're missing. So, all the info I've been giving you is all info that's already out. It's been out for, months at this point. Where the one dude, I think, published a book, and the book was actually approved. It took like X amount of time even for the Pentagon to even approve it, but they did. So, you have to realize that they're doing it right. They're not trying to do the wrong thing, but yeah, these guys are actually coming out and put their reputation on the line. The one gentleman that's in intelligence and stuff, he's actually having trouble. They were causing problems for him, where he wasn't able to get a job and stuff. They were causing all kinds of problems for him, just because he was trying to come out about this. And that's what they do. That's that's the point. That shouldn't be happening. Anyway, I think we got to everything. And and yeah, I think you kind of understand, the point of why we started with the whole psychological warfare thing. And, like, understanding why that president might not necessarily be the one that wants to release information about that and stuff. But, yeah. As far as predictions, that's as best I can do for now. And, it's the sort of thing where, I'd be thrilled to know that the U.S. makes it another 10 years, So, yeah. I think that's about it, guys. I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about. I think we finally, we got to all of it. And, this is subject you can use. Like I said, they've been doing the hearings on it. You can go look at the video I sent you the link to. There's several other clips and stuff like that, but the one I gave you there from Forbes, I think is the source there. That should be the full hearing versus like clips of it. So I think that one I linked you in chat should be from Forbes, and it should be the full hearing. If not, I'm still going to put it in the description, and you guys will have those links in the description too. So yeah. Anything else before we go? I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't even see your message there way back. Hey, what's up? I see you. I literally didn't even see you. Your message was hiding. My fault. So yeah. That's it. Thank you for watching, and stay safe. Don't do anything crazy. Just try to stay informed and pay attention to, all of the, actual information. Try to weed out, nonsense. Facts. What are the facts? Remember that. Alright guys, I'm out of here. Thank you so much.